You're listening to the Streets of Rage online podcast. I'm your host, Streetsman. We got some things to talk about today with some news that has not really been discussed on the podcast, some things that have happened over the last few months since the so-called Streets of Rage summer has been kicking off. But first, I would like to start off by apologizing to everyone in the community for my absence. I have been away for a while due to summer, pretty much this being my last summer of freedom is what I call it. Hanging out with my friends before they leave town and really getting some things in order for to start a new chapter in my life. So I want to apologize for being away for as long as I have, but I have come back to do this podcast. Another thing that has hindered me has been the new podcast I've started and have been very busy and dedicated a lot of time to, so that has taken up some time as well. But I do want to talk about more about Streets of Rage Remake version 5. I'd also like to update the list of Streets of Rage Remake mods that have been completed. Las Colias, The Chase is On, Chinese School, VR Missions, Streets of Rage The Lost Levels, NAS 8400's mod, Syndicate Revenge, Streets of Rage Plus, and last but not least, Wave War. Those are all completed Streets of Rage Remake version 5 mods, and I would download those and play those if you haven't already, because there's some good material in there, and the people that worked on them worked very hard to make them, so we recommend that you download those and play those as soon as possible. I'd like to move to the questions that were sent to me. First question here is from Yuzo Boy. It says, if Sega made Streets of Rage 4 for the Dreamcast, do you think the Streets of Rage 4 beta developed for the Dreamcast would have eventually turned into a success with its third-person view mode, or would the conventional 2.5D side-scroll method be the only way the game can be played enjoyably? As a fan of the series, and I think most longtime fans, hopefully, I believe they have the same opinion as I do on this, Streets of Rage, to us, has not been played in a 3D role yet. We are all so used to it being played in a side-scroll way. I don't see Streets of Rage ever being a 3D game, and that's no knock on it. It's just, it was built originally in 2D, a side-scroll method. I think for it to move to 3D and you have a third-person view and, you move around kind of like an open-world city, I don't think it would work very well. I think that if Sega did it, especially, like I've said in the past, I don't think they would do a good job on it at all if they made it a third-person game. Because look what happened with Golden Axe. Golden Axe, they turned it into a 3D game, and it tanked. It was horrible. I mean, it was barely, it could not even compare to any other game this generation. And I've said this before. So I believe Streets of Rage should only be played, in a side-scroll style. I don't like the idea of a third-person view with it. But that's just me. I don't know. I feel like other fans support me in that thought. So if anyone objects, of course I'll be happy to hear it. Oh, and Matt's got a question right after that. It said, what happened to the podcast, Streets, man? Well, recording it right now. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Because it's true. I really did go off the map for a while. So, I'm recording it right now, Matt. It'll be ready before you know it. Of course, Shadow has sent me 8 questions to answer on the podcast. Question 1. Would a future Streets of Rage game work well with 4 players cooperating together online? Or would it develop into a frustrating mess? Okay, I'll answer this. If friendly fire is on, it's not going to work. There's going to be too many people running into each other, and it will be a frustrating mess. If friendly fire is turned off and the players just kind of like walk through each other, so to speak, kind of like some side-scrollers allow, I would think it would work just fine, as long as the landscaping was a little bit wider. As you're walking, there's more space to kind of maneuver. I think it'd be great. But it would also have to be more challenging to really be any fun, because to me it would seem like with 4 players, and I could just imagine kind of like the current Streets of Rage, if it allowed 4-player co-op, it'd be a little too easy. So I would like to see more enemies and maybe more bosses and challenges that would come against a 4-player co-op group. Question 2. How can one manage to keep the frame rate running at 60 frames per second without lag? Something unacceptable in a beat 'em up? I'm not sure if it is or not. You could say maybe it's too early for that, but I'm really not sure if it is or not. Question 3. How do you think the game mechanics would work like in this new game? I definitely think there would be more combos and more moves to try out and stuff. I think it would work really well as long as it was a side-scrolling game. I think it would work real well. And also, if it stays true to the old game mechanics, it'd be great. Question 4. Should there be standard online features such as online leaderboards and a ranking system? Well, Streets of Rage 2 on Xbox Live Arcade and PS3 and all the other ones, I think it's proved really well to work real well. I just think it can be done using those as a blueprint, yes. Question 6. Should we be offered the choice to create your own characters or simply modify the existing characters in the game into wearing what we want them to? I think you should be able to do that. I think you should be offered the choice to create your own characters and to modify what they want to wear. Modifying existing characters, yes, I believe so. I think if you go through a game especially and you beat it and you unlock everything, I think that should be one of the things you unlock in the game. Question 7. Would the online mode have its own story or use an abridged one? Think Kingdom Hearts, that alters certain events in the game, like say changing a FMV of Axel beating up a punk into the created character beating up said punk with Axel watching in the background. I don't know if online would have its own story. I think maybe that's kind of risky. I don't think I would put one like an online story there. I would just do the simple one-on-one combat. That's just me. If I'm missing something with that question, by the way, feel free to point it out and I'll answer it in the next podcast. Question 8. Would the Streets of Rage characters fit well into a fighting game like Virtua Fighter? If so, would they keep their blitzes and special attacks? I think they would have to lose some of that going over to Virtua Fighter, but I think all the characters would actually work very well in a Virtua Fighter type game. I don't know if they would come out looking the same. That might draw some controversy since we're so used to seeing them in a certain way, and they would be viewed in a new light in, say, a Virtua Fighter game. But I think it would actually work really well. So, yes, I think all the characters would fit really well into a game like Virtua Fighter. And as always, guys, we encourage questions and so forth for the podcast. So feel free to send those to me, and or write them down here in the topic for the Streets of Rage Online podcast on the forums. Thank you for listening, guys. Hope to see you next time, and don't worry, hopefully the next one won't take me 2 months to record. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for listening.